y'all, welcome to the Fill-In Station. So in this video, we are looking at some charting tips, let's say that. So normally when I look at the market, this is where some of the things that I normally point out, and I always say what can help us with our trading journey. So let me first give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yes, the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. But if you could please like, share, subscribe, y'all. We learn and we grow together. With that being said, let's get started. So we are looking at the NASDAQ E-mini. Yes, for right now, for teaching purposes or for educational purposes, let's say that, right? So immediately I go to the 30-minute chart. Yes, I can look at the higher time frames, but in my opinion, I like to see the 30-minute chart. Why? Again, it tells me a story I like to read. So on this 30-minute chart, I can go to yesterday's information so that it could help me with today, right? Or planning for today. So this is yesterday's candle. And as you can see, we got rejected at this ATR trailing stop a few times here, and then we declined here, right? So what was interesting is the body of this candle and the body of this candle is kind of close to the body of this candle here and the body of this candle here. So that tells me that we have a situation in this area right here that I kind of need to pay close attention to, right? So even if I mark it here at the wick of the candle, it's kind of getting me in that area. So I'm going to mark that. Why? Because price was here. Price was here, price was here, and here we are there again, right? So that's something to be mindful of. Well, look at the body here of these candles. Price was here. Again, we're taking yesterday's information to get help for today, right? So this is an area of support. Price has been gathering, as I'd like to say, the gathering spot or the consolidation area. Now, I'm going to go and use this information, or I could have stayed over here, but I'm going to use this information over here to help me with kind of like building a zone, right? So as of right now, this is the zone that we've been trading in, meaning this will be our support and this is our resistance, right? So that is the area. So breaking beyond that, keep in mind, this candle did break out just a little bit from that. So we could very well come back to that area again and get rejected, but we're still back in our zone. So however, breaking this area, it tells me that this area here, which is an area that we had marked previously, it tells us here, price gathered in this area, and you can see it right there, right? So knowing that if we break this area here, as we tried to test it before, if we should break through this area, guess what? We could still have trouble in this area here. So if you're trading it to the upside, you could very well know that, I could trade it until we get close to this area here because, we could very well have trouble in that area. And as you can see, there was some sellers based on the wicks on top of here lets us know that we had some sellers in that area, right? So even if we get back to this area again, that does not guarantee that there are still sellers in that area. It just lets us know that we could possibly have trouble in this area. So again, this is the 30-minute chart. This candle has not closed yet, so that's something to be mindful of. Also, what is important is knowing this zone here has been a zone for us before. Again, on yesterday, here we are today trading in the same zone. So where are the trouble places? So that would be the question that I would ask, right? So where are the trouble places? Well, if we break this area here, I need to go back to yesterday's information so that I can get a little bit more help with, where are the trouble places? And again, I look at support and resistance on a more of a micro scale. Why? Because when I'm in the trade, I kind of want to know where my possible trouble places are. So we can say here, when I draw this line, I want it to touch, I want something to touch it at least 2 or 3 times to let me know that, yeah, I'm in the right area. And as we see here, price touched here, here, and here. So even if we should break this area here, we could still have trouble in this area here. That is important to me. Why? Because again, if I'm in the trade, I want to know where my possible trouble places are. I'm going to use this example because it just happened, right? So we tried to break through this area here, but you see the wick that's at the top of that. So that tells me that there's still some sellers in this area here. Definitely need to be careful with that. But if I was to mark that line, it actually goes to the bottom of this line here. So that's something to watch, something I need to watch. Let's say that, because price again could get rejected based on here and bring us back to this zone here. So really it wouldn't be a need to trade it to the upside because I'm really still back trading in this zone. So again, so let's go back to making, making those lines and figure out what our trouble places are, right? So again, if we break through this area here, we could still have trouble again. I'm going to go here and mark here. Why? Because the body of the candle is here and this indecision candle was here. And as you can see, the body of this candle is here. So I need to remember that area. Why? Because we've had some situations. We had some time spent in that area before. There's a strong possibility that we're going to come back to that area again, right? So let's go back. It tells me again, we're still having trouble in this area as we knew that we could, right? So based on this candle over here, let me mark that. Based on this candle here, this candle tells us that that's where our trouble place, that's what's hindering us as of now, because we tried that. Breaking beyond that tells us, okay, we've broken through that area of resistance. So I'm just breaking down how I see the market and how I use other previous information to help me with my current situation. So again, this candle has not closed, but I knew that we could have trouble in this area here. Why? Because price stopped us in this area over here before. Again, looking at it on a micro scale, on a smaller scale. And if that bothers you, to have different lines on your charts, maybe you can look at it on, the 25 cent, the 50 cent, or the dollar, or whatever works best for you. This is some of the things that, that helps me when it comes to charting and trying to figure out, okay, we had trouble in this area, so I need to definitely be careful, or this is the area that we might have trouble. Let's say that, right? So again, as you can see, we got rejected. We're still getting rejected in this area based on we've been in this area before and we kind of had some trouble there, right? So it was a support for us here. Now it is a resistance for us here. So that's something to, be mindful of. Now, again, breaking that, we could possibly, if by chance we break this level, we could very well make it to this level and have trouble. If we break that, we could possibly make it to this level and have trouble. And if we break that, we could possibly make it to this level and possibly have trouble. So if we should break that, I'm going to go and I could either use the high of this, which is here, where the body of those candles are, or I could also use this area, which is on the top of this candle, meaning something stopped us at this high right here. So definitely can use that. And so as you can see, we have marked a few lines on our chart for resistance, right? So those are areas, if by chance we should break back to the upside, those are possible areas that we could possibly, right, have trouble. Now, as you can see here, look, we're still having trouble in that area here based on the information that we got from yesterday's candles. Like right here, we knew that based on here that this is our reason for not clearing this area here as of right now. And again, we're still trading in this zone. Why? Because we marked our resistance here, our support here. Even though we tried to break up, the candle has not closed. We could very well come back down and, and decline, or just close in this zone here. So that's something to watch, making sure, one, you're able to identify your zones. And when I say zone, I just say the consolidation area or the gathering spot, right? So this would be one of those areas. This is definitely one of those areas. Now, let's go back and see if we can identify those back to the downside. Well, immediately my eye goes to this area right here. Why? Because something stopped us in that area. Something held us up in this area right here. Those two candles stopped there for a reason. I had already had this area right here marked. So, and you see that is kind of where our ATR trailing stop was, and our 200 EMA on this 30-minute chart is, we can also use that as a support area. But I'm going to go and mark this area here. Why? Because price is here, price is here, price is here. So something held us up or stopped us in this area. Guess what? It could very well be another area of support or another area of resistance. So I need to remember that. Again, we're breaking it down on a micro scale on a smaller scale. Why? Because when we're in the trade, we kind of need to know where our trouble places are. So back to the downside, let's say if we break under this level here, we could very well come back to this level here based on this information we just did here. And if we should break this level, we could very well come back to this area here. That was a level that I've already, marked previously. However, breaking that, we could very well come back to this level here, which we got that from this information we just marked here. Price gathered there for a reason there. So if we should break that level, we could very well come back to this area here. So in my thinking, there's a kind of like a space in between that we could very well get stopped out in that area. Well, guess what? It is. And if we go and kind of mark, let's say this area here, price was there here, and here. So that is another area that we could very well stop at and, stop here, bounce back, or break through and continue down. That's something to think about, right? So should we break this level? You see this level I already had marked. Price was already at that place right here. Why? I need to remember that. Now back to the downside, continuing to the downside. If you look where that body is, it's not far from that wick area. So I need to remember that area. Why? Because price can continue, bounce from here and move back to the upside. So that's something to be mindful of. Now here, I would mark those two candles here. Why? Because one, it looks like it gives us a double bottom and we move back to the upside, and something stopped us in this area. Yes, the wick came down to this area, but look where the body of the candles are. And we may not get it exactly right every single time, but we kind of have an idea of where our possible trouble places are. So I hope this video has been very, very helpful for you. Again, if this is overwhelming for you, there's so many creative ways that you can make it or tailor it to where it actually works for you. So I'm going to go and I'm going to change out some of those colors. So if those colors bother you, I go and I make them a gray color so that it's not so overwhelming to the eye. Again, trading is about, learn support and resistance, and for you to figure out a strategy that works best for you and for you to be able to execute your plan and make sure that you have a plan before going into the trade, y'all. So this is how I look at the market. I say it often, y'all, there's so many different ways to trade the market. And again, what's challenging is trying to figure out what strategy works best for you, making sure that you have a plan before going into the trade. So I hope that this has been encouraging to you, and I hope that everyone have a very profitable and a very, very productive day. Again, if you could please like, share, comment, subscribe, y'all, because we learn and we grow together. Until next time, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others.